ESL classroom observation. The interviewer for this observation was myself, Julia Black. It occurred on March 3rd, 2016 at Dunjeon Elementary School in Gumpo, South Korea. The teacher interviewed and observed was Junhee Lee, or Jenny, as I will refer to her. She has more than 10 years of experience in ESL and teaches 3rd and 6th grade. So for a little bit of teaching context, these students are in 3rd grade and they are age 8. This is their beginning of English class. In public school, English starts in 3rd grade. Their general interests are things common for every 3rd grade Korean student: baseball, K-pop, cartoons, and especially anything having to do with Western culture. About 1/4 of the students have had previous English instruction. So in Korea, many students attend Hagwon or academy. Some start in kindergarten, some start in 5th grade. At this point, about 1/4 of the students have already had previous English instruction. They have many resources. They are capable of learning in their own home and have access to a lot of technology and anything in English. Their mother tongues, they are all speaking Korean. And there was actually one student who happened to be from China, and I had never seen that before in a classroom, but he spoke Korean fluently and knew some English. They all correctly agreed that English would be important to them. They named admission into university as a reason that English would be very important. They definitely prefer songs and tons of activities rather than sitting with a textbook. Surprise. All of the students observed seemed to be very happy, very smiling, very positive. This is a school that I work in, and they are always excited to see the English teachers in the hallway. So generally great personality. And definitely higher participation or higher proficiency was going to equal a lot more participation in these kinds of classroom interactions. I've seen that in their science classes as well as my own classes. And there are some issues that we discussed ahead of time, like how some students who had been in Hagwon for a while would be very excited. They would want to show off their high ability, and that might discourage students who are having their very first day of English class. So our setting, in Korea, English is really widely taught in Hagwon and in public school, although sometimes they don't always have a foreign teacher in the public school. And in the business world in Korea, you can get a salary raise from scoring high on English tests, and it's very necessary in many, many business jobs. In the school, we never use English except during English class. There are some posters around the school in English, but otherwise it's strictly Korean unless you go to the English class. At my school, we employ 3 Korean teachers to cover 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and then 1 foreign teacher myself. We're very lucky. Our administration, especially our principals, thinks that English is very important. He wants to speak better English, but he can't. And also something very unique to my area is that our city, not the federal government, pays for the foreign teacher, pays for an English program. The city of Gumpo, their motto is with book, wherever, whenever, always with book. So they're very academically minded. And while the federal government cut a lot of foreign teacher positions in the public schools, Gumpo decided to charge taxes for the city in order to continue employing foreign teachers in every public school. They have since had to cut middle and high school, but are still able to do it for elementary school. We do have a sufficient range of technology, so all of our classrooms have computers, projectors. We can ask for more technology. We have Elmo projectors, that kind of thing. The co-teachers always share their lessons, and we create our lessons together. So I work with Jenny to develop the curriculum for our 6th graders. I work with our other co-teachers to develop those lessons as well. So we can always help each other. Like, I use this material for my class, maybe you would find it useful for yours. Our class sizes range between 27 and 31. This third grade class was especially big, 31 students. And English class for third, fourth, and fifth grade is 40 minutes long, and they only meet once a week. So it's not a lot of time to ingrain a lot into their heads. We do have a very large classroom that we use in the English department, so it's different from their homeroom. They have to get all of their materials and walk down the hallway to the English class. Also, instead of sitting in desks in rows, they are sitting at round tables in groups. So that comes in a lot when we do activities and we have the 7 groups competing against each other. Sometimes English in the public school is considered fun or silly time and not very serious. Serious English is done in Hagwon. That's usually where they go to learn that. We have almost no formal testing. In third grade, there will be a survey at the beginning, and then at the end of the semester, kind of a survey of things learned, but it does not affect them negatively. And also, we have no application of the Common Core. So Jenny uses a textbook framework. She does not like the textbook, but takes things from previous lessons, takes elements that the textbook wants to teach, and creates her own lesson plan and her own idea of how to direct the class. She specifically, from her materials, wants to teach the topics with an emphasis on speaking and listening, especially because we don't have a lot of paper testing in English class. That's what we put our emphasis on. That's what we try to design every piece of material and every lesson working towards, is speaking and listening. So that's what she said she was going to try to bring out most in the lesson that I would watch. So the lesson that I observed was going to be their first lesson ever. It was the introduction to the English room, to the importance of English, asking why do we learn English, talking about why they should be there, and then as well as an overview of classroom rules. So classroom findings about the learner based on the observation. So first of all, the group dynamics were really great. Everyone was happy speaking to whoever was next to them, even though they were split up from their friends, and whenever someone got an answer right, they would praise each other, be happy for them. The kind of interactions that I saw weren't really talking like they didn't want to pay attention, but kind of asking, what did she say? Or wasn't that funny what she said? That kind of thing. And their interest was actually held the whole time. Jenny's a really great teacher. She puts really great visual aids together, and everyone was very happy to be there and very happy to have their eyes on her for mostly the whole time. First observation criterion that I developed was the interaction between the students at different levels. So a student who knew a lot might raise her hand to answer a question, and then she would just kind of ramble on in English because she was so excited to be speaking, and that would make the other students kind of zone out. The teacher had their attention, not necessarily the other students. The higher levels might whisper an answer to the lower levels to help them speak. So maybe Jenny would ask a question and she wouldn't want to call on the students who had already answered a million times. She would say, new face, new face. And the higher level students would turn to the lower level and whisper, say this answer, and then they could answer. The next observation criteria was, how does she sustain interest? So she put together a great PowerPoint. She mainly teaches with PowerPoints. She had pictures of herself. Self-disclosures shown to be very useful in retaining attention and student motivation. She uses funny GIFs. She interrupts with videos that are related to the lesson, and she does constant translation of herself for anyone who gets confused. But she does make sure that she is always speaking English throughout the lesson. My final observation criteria was questions. So students would ask and answer questions about certain words. She would make sure to have words bold and encourage them to ask, like, what is Harvard? Or she would say something like, foreign teacher. Who is our foreign teacher? And I would be sitting in the back and she would point to me because they're very excited to see a foreigner in the school, and she would tell them, this foreign teacher is from America, that kind of thing. So she really utilized questions, asking her own questions and trying to get them to ask her questions. For the focus on the teacher, she made sure to always put everything in context of like, and you need to know this because English, because of a job, and what if you want to be a Messi, you want to be a soccer star, what if you want to be a movie star, this new movie, what if the captions break on Inside Out, and you must know English to know what is going on. She sees her role as leading the lesson and then prompting discussion, prompting speaking. So she would ask, go ahead in Korean, discuss in your group why you think English is important. And always, always asking questions, trying to get them to answer in unison so that other students feel more comfortable, not put on the spot. She did do a lot of the speaking for this lesson, and that's typically how it goes. She's still asking questions, but I'd say about 7/8 of the lesson was her speaking. She tries to clarify by asking for translation. What does this word mean in Hangul? What does this word mean in Korean? And constantly checking in Korean, asking, do you understand this? If you don't, please tell me. It's completely fine. And then if she senses that they don't and they don't want to speak up, then she still goes back over it for clarity. For emotional support, she's constantly giving positive feedback if they got the answer wrong. Oh, that was a really good try. You're close. Can someone help? That kind of thing. So there is correction there, but it's always very positive. The class is very active. She's moving around a lot. She's having them raise their hand. She's having them shout back answers, but it's also structured, and she gets the students constantly answering and tries new faces all the time. She uses PowerPoint with her own pictures, with things that she thinks will appeal to the students, some K-pop stars, that kind of thing. For activities, she has them fill out a form describing their English experience and then also to make name tags. So later she can go back and see how many students she actually has from an academy. And also, this is their introduction to using an English name, so they're getting an identity. They're really getting into the mood of now we are in English mode. It's not Korean class where we use some English words, but we have an English name. We are strictly speaking English. She makes sure that all of her directions are written in the PowerPoint slide, as well as spoken, repeated, and then translated. She is constantly stopping and then translating herself, but does it in a very natural way. Every response that is given is going to receive correction, but also positive feedback. For her criteria, first one I used was translation. She does a great job of saying everything perfectly in English. She's completely fluent, and then seamlessly translating in a way that doesn't disrupt from the English part of the lesson at all, so the students can hear the same phrases over and over again in English and then Korean. She's also really great at her visual aids. Her PowerPoints are engaging in Korean and in English, and she really knows how to pick things that appeal to the students. She's good at allowing them time to actually laugh at a funny animal gif and then going on to speak. And she's also always positive. Even when students are talking, she's very stern, but she immediately switches after they've been quiet, going back into happy, positive mode, and really never letting the tone of the class become very negative. For lesson improvement, I might consider book exploration, like allowing the students to open the book. It's got a lot of colorful pictures. It doesn't have a lot of English in it. Many directions are in Korean. So that might ease any sort of anxiety, because often students come in thinking, I can't speak English. I'm too afraid. I'm going to have to speak English the whole time. Like, don't worry. There's Korean in your book. Your teachers will translate Korean. It's okay. And then they just get a chance to imagine what the rest of English is going to be like, get pretty excited. I would also maybe read the survey questions out loud and ask for answers already. So students have an example. So students, often a student with no experience at all will feel free to volunteer that. And so then other students who might have apprehension about admitting that they haven't had an English class will then feel comfortable about that. For overall comments, I think she is an amazing teacher. I'm very lucky to work with her. Her English is great, and she does a really good job at reforming her utterances. So she'll say something in English, she'll realize maybe it was too advanced, or maybe she used a word that they didn't understand, and she repeats and rephrases constantly. So they are hearing a lot of vocabulary, and they are understanding things. She also is really great at referencing student interest. So she knows what her students like, and she's going to incorporate that in a way that will be effective for them. She also has tons of enthusiasm. Like right now, we can really capitalize on the students' current enthusiasm for English class. They're excited. It hasn't become difficult yet, and so she really jumps on that and tries to get them remembering you need English for all of these reasons.